With the summer season in full swing, the Charleston Police Department says this is a busy time for officers. With more school children with time on their hands, authorities say it's a good time to be reminded of the law. Next, an interview with Charleston Police Lieutenant Brad Oyer. Stay with us. At Issue starts now. Welcome and thank you for joining us for At Issue. I'm your host, Kelly Runyon. In recent months, the Charleston Police Department has found themselves in the news fairly regularly for working multiple cases in the community, including fights with weapons, armed robberies, and sexual assaults. To help solve some of those cases, authorities turned to social media websites like Facebook, and it seemed to work. But what's also working is more officers on the streets, visiting with local residents about potential problems. We thank Lieutenant Brad Oyer with the Charleston Police Department for joining us to talk more about that and also other strategies the police department is using to strengthen the relationship between the police and the public. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kelly.
Well, we'll start with the summertime. Do you see more activity in the summer months through the police department?
Yeah, sure. The summertime brings a different kind of activity also as things change. During the school year, we have a lot more student population here. We handle a lot more student-oriented issues. Now that the school's out, the high school's out, and the smaller children are in town, we handle more things that would be related to them. We're going to spend more time in those neighborhoods than we might have, and because we're not dealing with other university type related incidents as well.
I was just going to say the climate does change probably from April to June.
Sure.
Many of the students from Eastern Illinois University pack up and head home, and that leaves the rest of the Charleston community.
Sure.
What types of crimes do you see during the summertime primarily? Is there a trend from summer to summer to summer?
Well, no, not. You can't say that one turns off and another one turns on. We're always, one of the things that we continually talk to communities about is securing your valuables. You know, burglary of a motor vehicle is always year-round an issue, something that we try to talk to the community to try to get some prevention measures in place for, and that comes from the vehicle owner as well, locking up their valuables, not having valuables in plain sight. But now that the school's gone, we see a lot less. Obviously, there's a lot less students in town, so we focus on other things right now.
Speaking of locking up valuables, this is also a time when, as we mentioned, Eastern students pack up. They leave for the summer,
Sure.
but they still have homesteads here in Charleston. Yeah. They may not have found subleasers, and so
Right.
they still have a residence here. How can they protect themselves?
One thing that we always tell college students is that when you leave on break, whether it's for a short break during the summer, whether it's Christmas, Thanksgiving, we try to tell you to secure any of your valuables. You're going to be leaving your residence, and you're going to be gone for an extended period of time. Please take the extra few minutes to take those DVDs, CDs, change jars, computers, laptops, game platforms, things that are small, which a burglar could come in quickly, take several things and be out of your house in a short period of time and remove very valuable things from the homeowner. Taking that extra time to put just a few more boxes of stuff in the back seat of your car may really save you a lot of money in the long run. I will say this, our patrol staff is excellent in patrolling the areas around the college housing when we know that the students are gone, to give them extra patrol and look for anybody who might be out of place in those areas and talk to them. But still, if we can, the more we can get the residents to remove the big ticket items of value, the better.
As I mentioned briefly earlier, the trend in Charleston, maybe trend is not the right word, but there seemed to be a lot of felony crimes in the Charleston community. as I mentioned, from fights with weapons to we were hearing armed robberies, we were hearing about sexual assaults. And what I was hearing from the community as being a member of the media is, it doesn't seem like this has ever happened in Charleston before. Why is there so much of this happening? Is it continuing? Why was it happening? Has it stopped? Maybe you can address that.
Well, we saw an uptick in certain crimes. Overall, when you look at our crime stats over the last several years, nothing is really out of the ordinary. But yes, there for a certain while you did see a big uptick in certain crimes. It really did seem out of the ordinary for a quiet, safe community like we have. People just couldn't ignore that this was going on. What we find is you kind of have a roller coaster effect. You end up with a time when you have some things are real busy, and then you'll have your low periods where it gets quiet for a period of time, and we appreciate those also.
What can police do? What can the community do to deter crime?
Well, the one thing that we tell people is we're asking the community to help us help you. If you've got information, if you've got a problem in your neighborhood, please contact us. Let us work with you to fix the neighborhood problem before it becomes a bigger problem than what it is. If you have information about a crime, please come forward and talk to us. Even if you don't think that it's important, it may be that missing piece that our detective section is looking for to link one series of events with a suspect or another series of events, link them together.
How is the police department working? Well, let me step back. You talk about the community helping and providing information. What if somebody out there is saying, maybe they're scared to contact the police, it makes them they're a little unnerved by contacting the police. Maybe not because they've done anything wrong, it's just they're thinking in the back of their mind, I don't want to get involved. So what can you say to those residents, or how can you strengthen that relationship with somebody like that to encourage them to pick up the phone or to log on or whatever it may be?
It's a good question. A lot of times people are uneasy about contacting the police department. They don't want their name attached to a certain incident. So we have several avenues in which you can contact the police department. Personally, I like it if they just call and ask for a patrolman to come by and they can talk to the patrolman. But like you said, not everybody's comfortable doing that. We use social media a lot. You can message us through that, but even that would have your name attached from your Facebook account to it. One thing you can do also, if you have any information about a crime, you can call a Crime Stoppers line, and that is completely anonymous, and you can get the information to us, and it's coming directly to us when you send it through Crime Stoppers, and that information comes directly to us anonymously.
Let's say I've got a problem with my neighbor. My neighbor's cutting their grass too far into mine. They're cutting my shrubs that are on my property, or, I mean, it can be something as minimal as that. But my fear is I call the police, and that's going to fuel the, the controversy with my neighbor even more. Sure. How can you, and some people may be out there thinking, I'm not going to call the police over something like that. And I'm sure you might think, nothing is too small. But how do you help resolve conflict like that before something that minimal, like a grass issue or a vegetation issue, could really escalate?
What's small to one person is a huge issue in their life to another person. And so I'm real hesitant to classify something as a small issue, because to them, in their household, in their life, a little annoyance can turn into lost sleep and a real pain real quick. So if you've got a problem like that, like the example you just gave, and you don't feel comfortable with a squad car pulling into your driveway and talking to you, there's another avenue. You can come up to the police department and talk to us. In a situation like this, we're going to go talk to the other neighbor and try to mediate out between you two. Now, there may just be a difference of opinion, which we can't be a deciding factor on. But we're definitely going to address the issue before it gets any further, and hopefully come to a mutual resolution.
You mentioned Facebook, that the residents can contact the police department through Facebook. The police department has been using social media actively recently, in not, recently as in the last couple of years or last year. Can you talk about the use of the social media within your department?
Sure. We decided some time ago that we were going to put our press releases out to social media to let the community in the idea and the concept of transparency, let the community know what the local police department was doing as far as the crimes that we were investigating, as well as the surveillance pictures maybe that we had, which we couldn't identify the suspect on. Maybe somebody could help us if they saw it on social media. And we went into it. This was something new, so we didn't really know how much success we might have or the feedback we might get with it. And we found that we had an enormous amount of success in people recognizing people off of surveillance video. And what we also found was there was a high amount of people in the neighborhood in the community who liked seeing what was going on, who liked to know the press releases that we were putting out, liked to know the major crimes that we were making arrests for, and they appreciated that information.
Let's go back to the summer time that we're in. Lots of younger kids are out and about. We talked about the college climate, but lots of younger elementary, secondary students are out and about. And the summer is a time for them to go out and do some things that maybe they shouldn't be doing. Advice to parents, caregivers, those that maybe have to work and sometimes they have to leave their children at home by themselves. Let's talk about some advice that we can give to them as far as keeping an eye on them.
Now, set good boundaries for your children. And that's a constant. Trust and know what your children are capable of, and if you can't trust that they're going to work within the boundaries, then make sure that you've got somebody who's watching them, because we don't want to see the kids get into trouble. We don't give them an environment where they're going to. But one thing message I do want to get across is to the people who are driving in Charleston. In the summertime, the roads do look different. Now all of a sudden there's a bunch of kids riding around on bicycles during the daytime where there wasn't during the school year. So we need to be careful as driving also. Watch out for bicycles, watch out for kids coming off the sidewalks as well, so we don't have any bicycle car accidents. Kids will be playing near the roadways more now during the day than they would have before. We need to watch out for them as well.
What about compliance checks for those that maybe have committed crimes in which they shouldn't be around children? So now is a busy time for pools, parks, kids out biking. Is that something that the department does actively do?
Compliance checks on?
Those that maybe have committed sexual crimes against children. Now is a very popular time for kids to be out.
Certainly.
So there probably needs to be an extra eye.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Can you talk about the department's strategy for that?
Sure. We have officers who are assigned that task, and they meet with, interview, and we do have officers. You mentioned the pool, place where kids hang out. We do have officers who go out and walk around the pool. If you go to the Charleston pool this summer, it's not going to be out of the ordinary whatsoever to see a uniformed officer come out and walk around, talk to some people, and find out the climate of what's going on there. Hopefully, it's nothing more than families having fun, and that's the norm too. We have very few problems there. But if there's something out of the ordinary going on, and if there's one of these people out there who shouldn't be, then we want to know that also, and we'll address that as it is needed.
The registry is online, so anybody could log on and find out where these people reside and where they live. Is it something that is encouraged for the public if they see something out of the ordinary?
Absolutely.
If they see somebody that may be doing something that they shouldn't, there's encouragement there to contact you.
Absolutely, Kelly. This is another one of those areas where we ask the public to help us help them. If they go on the register and they recognize the people in their neighborhood and they know that they're someplace they shouldn't be, police can't be everywhere all the time. If they call us, and we do field these calls and we follow up on them. We're going to follow up on everything that we get, but that's going to be, you've got a situation involving children like that, we're going to get right on that. We take it seriously.
You mentioned patrols at pools, parks, neighborhoods. Will officers be doing a bit more patrolling in residential areas, and how is that planned? Is it planned any differently than it is when the college is not in session?
Well, we always get out into the neighborhoods, even if they may not see squad cars there all the time. Our squad cars are out in the neighborhoods all the time, watching the traffic patterns and the people who are coming and going there also. And the summertime's no different, especially in the summertime when we don't have as many people in other areas of the town. We're going to move those into the residential areas even more, and visit with the people who are there, as well as see what's going on in the neighborhoods.
When you say visit, do officers actually go door to door sometimes to introduce themselves? Or again, it's all of that approach of, if I see an officer in a squad car going through my neighborhood, I instantly think something's wrong.
Sure.
I think there's a problem.
Yeah.
And so there is still that barrier, and I would assume that your officers probably struggle with that and trying to build that relationship with the community.
Yeah, it's difficult going door to door. You're probably not going to see that. Getting an officer getting out and knocking on the door just to say, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? When people are out and about, they're walking, it's not uncommon for an officer to pull over and chat with them and see how they're doing, seeing what's going on in the neighborhood. And a lot of our officers have been here long enough, they know a lot of people in the neighborhoods also.
Climate of the summer we've talked about. Let's go climate of the fall, when of course more students come back to Charleston and Eastern, and you have a very good working relationship with Eastern as far as working with university officials and helping them to acclimate new students to campus. What is that relationship, and what do you even speak to incoming students? What is the message from the police department for those young people, and what do you tell them about the first couple of weekends of the university school session, which can sometimes be very busy? Yeah,
it can. It can. We do. You mentioned our relationship with Eastern. We're proud of the fact over the last several years we've really cultivated a very good relationship, not only with Eastern Police Department, our counterpart at Eastern, who the guys work together very well, but we've also working with student standards, as well as the university as a whole, to fix problems and to make this a better place for the students to live as well as go to school. We do, and one of those initiatives that we did was go into the freshman orientation. All incoming freshmen as well as transfer students have an orientation day, and I'm able to go there, me or another officer generally, and talk to the incoming freshmen as well as their parents, and let them know what they can expect here at Eastern, and that Charleston welcomes them in, and give them some information, some guidelines maybe to help them through those, like you said, the first few weeks.
What do you see those first few weeks? A student gets here, they're excited, they're anxious, they're just excited to be on campus, and so that's when sometimes problems can arise.
It can. I want to say this, I'll preface what I say with saying this. Eastern is a very well-behaved campus. It's a very well-behaved student body. Eastern has a lot to be proud of in that aspect, and it's a very safe campus as well. But saying that, Some of the incoming freshmen are 18 years old. It's their first time away from home, and some of them can get in trouble in those times. And we want to work hard to let them know what the boundaries are, and that just because you're away from mom and dad doesn't mean that there are no rules. There are rules. This is a safe community, and we want to keep it that way for the safety of the students as well as the residents, and to make it a nice place to live and go to school for everybody.
But you do see issues those first couple of weekends. Can you talk about that? What you can tell somebody, a student, and say, look, you can't do this when you come to town?
9 times out of 10, the problems revolve around alcohol use, or actually I should say alcohol abuse, intoxicated students. That's intoxication's a problem everywhere from alcohol poisoning issues, which we have seen here, to the point of ambulance calls, to the far extreme alcohol poisoning, fights, oftentimes alcohol induced. But even saying that, those incidents are on the decline from what they have been in years past, and every year the Eastern student population seems more and more well behaved.
If I'm a resident, sometimes I might see a Charleston police officer, I might see a university police officer, I might see a county sheriff's department deputy, I might see the Illinois State Police. And frankly, I'm not convinced that everyone knows what the difference is between all of these departments and how they all work together.
Sure.
And in talking about safety and keeping a community safe and encouraging people to call for assistance, can you talk about the relationship with all of those departments and how they're separate too?
Certainly can. The jurisdiction that the officer works for, that's where their responsibilities lay. I personally work for Charleston Police Department. Our jurisdiction and our responsibility is to the city of Charleston. Officers get hired with the University of Eastern Illinois University, and their responsibility is the campus mainly. Other officers you will see here, like you mentioned, from the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's deputies are responsible for the area out of the incorporated city limits of Mattoon, Charleston, Humboldt, Oakland. They primarily patrol the counties, but they will come into town also, because Charleston is within their jurisdiction. Everything within the county is their jurisdiction. State police are the same way. Normally they work the highways, but that's not necessarily a 100% given. They will come into Charleston also, especially on weekend nights. On weekend nights you can see a lot of law enforcement in this town. The same thing with Secretary of State officers. Secretary of State officers work for the Illinois Secretary of State's office. They primarily deal with vehicles, vehicle licensing, registrations, as well as driver's licensing. But they can enforce any law just like any other police officer can. And sometimes you will see them in the city of Charleston of an evening also. You will see there's a lot of law enforcement involved on a weekend night in Charleston.
Well, let's talk about that. There was a fairly large fight in Charleston a few months ago. That's just one scenario, but what other scenarios would your officers be called in or from outside to assist? How does that
over my career, and I can't think of anything of a large scale recently where we've asked for multiple officers from other jurisdictions, but during my career we've had very large fights that we've asked for help, and you'd be surprised at how fast officers are showing up, and state police officers who you had no idea were in the area were there very quickly, as well as Secretary of State officers for that matter. So yeah, if there's a real problem that there needs to be a bigger law enforcement presence, we don't have any problem finding more officers. All we have to do is ask for them on the radio, and they'll be here.
In our last minute, if you had to say one last word or a bit of advice to residents to make their community a safer place, a better place to live. What would you tell them as far as working with police and strengthening their relationship with you?
I would say Charleston's a great place to live. It's a great place to have a family, send your kids to school. We want to work with the community. We want to know what the problems are in the neighborhood so that we can work to help you overcome that, to improve the quality of life for everybody in Charleston, whether it's a student at Eastern, whether it's a Charleston resident full-time, whether it's a high school student for that matter. Our goal, what we strive to do, is to make Charleston a better place and improve the quality of life for everybody who comes through here. And if you've got a problem, if you've got something to talk to us about, please don't hesitate. There's a whole lot of avenues, which you pointed out, to contact us. Utilize one of those, or just stop by and sit down with us and talk to us at the police department, and we'll see what we can do to help you.
All right. Lieutenant Oyer, thank you for the conversation today. And if there's a topic you'd like discussed here on At Issue, contact us at weiu@weiu.net. You can also catch this episode on our YouTube page at youtube.com/WEIUTV. I'm your host, Kelly Runyon. Be sure to join us again next week for At Issue.